Anubis. We're pristine, so back mindset. Like a machine. In the game, we're clean, we're so keen. Powers in the sky, chasing that dream. That dream, obelisk tide, we rock the scene. Capturing rhymes while taking what's unseen. On the arc, we're kings, we're supreme. Never seen the limits in the way we have to breathe. Time cross, very interesting. We will go clean the crown. We'll tear it down. There's nothing they can never do to take down our crown. And we will pop them down and make the drum sound. There's something inside more blessings sneaking around. Now watch the ice still. We're fighting down. Running, charge, and calculate the power we bring. Running like a panther, hear the battle sing. We're blazing through the ranks on the move and swing. With might in our heart to take everything. Everything pillars rise as we claim our throne. For victory, we've already grown. On the field we fight, we overthrow the known. Nothing stop us, ain't no way we stand alone. Time cross, very interesting. We will go clean the crown. We'll tear it down. There's nothing they can never do to take down our crown. And we will pop them down and make the drum sound. There's something inside more blessings sneaking around. Now watch the ice still. We're fighting death. From the desert altar to the desert outpost, we crave more. With every sweet stride, we will arrive. We're opening the door. So here's to the grind. We'll tear it down. There's nothing they can never do to take down our crown. And we will pop them down and make the drum sound. There's something inside more blessings sneaking around. Now watch the ice still. We're fighting death. Yeah, we're fighting death. We're fighting death. We're fighting death.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the quarterfinals of the Osiris League here in the realm of Horus. We are looking forward to a very close match between two young kingdoms, 3379 against 3174. Now, 3379 made it to this point by virtue of pulling the upset of the century last week against 60 GT. That was a very impressive, high risk, high reward play that 3379 pulled off using master strategy to help capture the obelisk and control one of GT's obelisks for the entire match. In the other corner, we have 3174, which has been undefeated throughout this Osiris League season. Now, one of the interesting aspects of this match is that these are two very young kingdoms. These are two kingdoms that are playing in a Season of Conquest Osiris League for the first time ever. And essentially, the experiment that Lilith attempted this season has paid off by virtue of the performances of these young kingdoms. In the past, younger kingdoms would play against other younger kingdoms in the realm of Bastet. But what Lilith did this season was they put all of the Season of Conquest teams in a pool together and split them up randomly to where very old kingdoms had the potential to play against very young kingdoms. And in this situation, these two young kingdoms, 3379 and 3174, they are both in the oldest realm, the realm of Horus. And I do want to back up 1 second, and I was incorrect that 3174 is undefeated. They actually did lose to 60 GT earlier on in this Osiris League. So one team here has beaten GT, the other team has lost to GT. that would initially tell you that 3379 is a big favorite here, but it doesn't look that way based on the odds, and it also doesn't look that way based on the results. There is a tendency by people to overrate what one team has done in an upset, especially if that upset is a bit of a fluke. And so there is some thought out there that 3379 is getting too much credit for their upset win over 60 GT. I think there is usually some validity to those types of theories, but in this case, I would point out two things. Number one, 3379 didn't just take the obelisk from GT, but they also did enough for the next 55 minutes of the match to win comfortably. I give them some credit for bringing that victory home. The other thing I want to point out, and this took a little bit of research here before the match, but earlier today we watched as OWR pulled a big upset against GV77, winning by about 14,000 points. Earlier in this Osiris League season, 3379 also lost to OWR, but they only lost by 9,000 points. And so it is actually the case that 3379 had a closer loss to OWR than the juggernaut GV77 just did. And so that loss is looking better and better on 3379's resume at this point. On the other hand, you have 3174, who has had nice wins against teams like TS24 from 1824, but they have also had some very easy wins, including a win a couple weeks ago where the other team only scored 500 points. So this one is shaping up to be very close, and I do think that 3379 is rightly a slight favorite in the match. But we will see. We will see how this thing shakes out. And at this point, let's go ahead and go onto the battlefield. We are starting to see both teams teleporting in. Both teams being very staggered in the teleports in. You can see over here that 3379 looks like they are really doing a one at a time teleport in here. So a bunch of coordination happening early game here by 3379. 3174 is a bit faster at this point. They're not being quite as precise in who teleports in which order. Now, one of the things I want to point out, and we're going to follow this as this match starts, is the importance of the T1 marches at the start of the game, and also the importance of getting the right player teleported into this front row spot. You do want the player who is out front to be the march that is sending those T1 marches forward. Last week, what we saw from 3379 is that Stafer was one of the two players who sent out those T1 marches. I'm not sure that Ailish V Balancer was the other player who did it. So Stafer doesn't have that front row seat here. He's got a good spot, but it's not perfect. And the T1 game at the beginning of these matches is incredibly important. It means that you have the ability to capture your own obelisk quickly, and it also means you have the ability to pressure the enemy team's obelisk. And what we saw from 3379 last week is they had two full T1 marches rushing to 60 GT's obelisk. And so while most players in Rise of Kingdoms do not want to have many tier 1 troops, the officers from ARC teams, there are usually going to be 1 or 2 players on each ARC team that has built 300,000 or more T1 cavalry to be used at the start of these matches. last week, 3379 used those marches very, very efficiently to win the match. And we are going to watch here as we are 20 seconds to go before the gates open. We're going to watch both of these teams, and we're going to watch the journey of these T1 marches and show you how much or how little all of these marches are able to accomplish. And here we go, gates opening now. In 1 second, the Realm of Horus quarterfinals are underway. Both of these teams trying to get the castle skin, the OL castle skin that the winners of this match will get, while the losers go home empty. We see Dip going out very quickly from the blue side. And it looks like it's not going to be stay for this week. It looks like it's a different set of T1 marches this week from 3379, and they're going in different directions rather than going in the same direction. For 3174, Midas on the right side, and Banakita over here. But you do see that the person who was in front, Catherine, was in front. Catherine is the R5 of this team, but Catherine is not the player who sent out the T1 marches. And so you see how there's just like a bit of... It's hard to get everything right. It's hard to get everything right as far as these T1 marches go. And then at this point, these marches have to make a decision about whether they stay in the obelisk to play defense or whether they go forward. It looks like in this case, a lot of these T1 marches are actually just staying in their obelisk, not trying to do more. Here we see 3379 using their T1 march to attack. And this is the side of the map where you do want to attack. You're able to get to this side of this team's obelisk faster. And so this is the side you want to be aggressive on. Both teams rolling out here. You see Ostapan not really going for the obelisk this time. It looks like 3379 is not going for anything too aggressive here. But Ostapan is going to be looking for opportunities down the road. What you can do with this march is, instead of taking the obelisk, what you can do is you can attack these outposts. Because a lot of times these outposts are undefended at the start of the match. So what Ostapan can do, and what it looks like they are thinking about doing, is just rotating around, sneaking around the side of this, I don't know what you call this thing. It's not a mountain. It's not a hill. It's a rock formation. Ostapan may want to sneak around that rock formation, but instead they're going to try to go for the... Now they're just checking. They're just poking the Eleanor. But you can see that both teams have some marches in the middle. Pretty interesting stuff that both teams doing some work in the middle to try to harass the outposts of the opposing side. And look at this from 3379. They have got a sneaky group here on the side. They might be setting something up here. 3379 went for a bit of trickery last week, and they might be going for trickery again this week. This is not the normal spot you would be standing in if you wanted to do a conventional attack on this desert altar. But they don't have a lot of marches here, and some of the marches are going back, so what they are responding to is that 3174 has broken up their rally that was headed to the obelisk, and now they're going to attack the Shrine of War with those marches. Doesn't necessarily look like they're going to be able to take the Shrine of War here, but they've at least forced the blue team to divert some of their marches in this direction. But we still do have a bunch of blue marches here hiding against the mountain line. Now they're going in. So it might have just been a bit of deception, a bit of hiding, a bit of a hiding move here by the blue team. And they might go into a normal attack on this desert altar. Both teams starting to teleport in cities now. Fighting underway here at this desert altar. Things have fully kicked off at this desert altar. Let's take a quick look at the numbers here. Good numbers for red here. A big outnumber at this desert altar by the red team. They are very well poised to to at least capture this desert altar. They will need to hold it for a few minutes. But a nice start at this topside desert altar for the red team. Let's see where those blue marches, and this is the reason why. It's because blue has huge numbers on the sky altar. So we have a bit of a flip-flop here, a crisscross takeover on the top side, blue grabbing the sky altar of the enemy team, red grabbing the desert altar of the enemy team. We just saw a whole bunch of Lu-Chi primaries swarming this altar. Many players now busting out 2 infantry marches at a time. And certainly a lot of teams and a lot of players have been making decisions around these infantry marches. What do you bring? And what formation do you have it on? We see here this Bai Chi has the pincer formation. This is going to be the pincer formation right here. The Scipio looks to be on wedge, but this is the pincer formation right here. And let's take a quick look at how many pincers are at this building. Not many pincer formations here. It does cost a lot of conversion stones to switch to pincer, but if you're able to do it before a match like this, you do get very good value in the field with that BQ. So on the bottom side, it does look like the red team is going to clean up their own desert altar here. They've lost their Shrine of War, but they will probably clean this up as well. And then they're looking pretty good at this desert altar. 90 seconds to go on this first capture at the desert altar, and they're going for it. 3174 is definitely going for it. Here's another pincer on Kulak with the Scipio primary. Very interesting. I would imagine it's a Lu-Chi behind this Scipio. Maybe a BQ. But another pincer formation here. Actually, it is on the BQ here. Yep. So Kulak here getting a nice reverse swarm on the back of this altar. But while doing so, his teammate's field is getting cleaned up. Kulak also has the rally here. A Nevsky Justinian rally, not the best rally on this building. This is iffy. This is iffy for 3379 here to be able to take back this building. The Harrow YSS holding on, and a lot of red marches are here, able to fill this mixed garrison. All these players are able to throw a march into this garrison if they need to, but they're going to clean it up with a lot of marches still to spare in the field. And then what about over here? 3379 trying to get the first capture, but it gets flipped. This building got flipped with 5 seconds to go. Clutch plays here by the red team. They are going to hold the blue team's desert altar, and they barely flipped their own sky altar back in time. That's a lot of points. Big point swing there for 3174, and that's a very good start for them. They were trailing briefly, but now as these first captures get locked in, 3379 or 3174 is going to probably have the lead going into the first arc. We've got 3.5 minutes before the first arc, and we're seeing a big rotation from the outside lane to this inside lane by the red team. This is the movement you have to do after they were there, flipping this building back. These marches are getting some value. The question is, can they get to mid on time? Are they needed at this building? Not really, but they have to take this path to mid. And I do like what this player here is doing. This is Kulak again. Kulak being a very dynamic player early on in this match for the blue team. Kulak is kind of picking off these marches. What you really want to be doing is hitting them as they walk. At this point, Kulak has kind of gotten trapped by the enemy. He is slowing them down, though. He's slowing these marches down as they try to go middle. He's also wearing them down a bit. Here's more marches from Blue. They're sort of here to take back this building. They're partly here to ambush the marches going mid. Both teams are devoting a lot of marches to this top side. What does that mean for the mid fight? Certainly 3379 is mobilizing quickly, especially from the start zone. The red team is a bit slower to get out of the start zone, probably because they had so much success. Their marches stayed in the field for so long, putting in work, that they're now slower to get to mid. They have 2 minutes to get there. Let's see if they're going to get there in time. Looks like it's just about exactly 2 minutes. These marches will get there before the arc spawns. A march like this Scipio here, is basically going to get to the arc as it spawns. So this is a bit problematic for 3174. They got good value for those marches, but Blue team is certainly better positioned for the first arc. And the only thing they're lacking is vision. They do not have any vision of what's happening for the red team. And they're trying to scout it out here. You see Quadra here trying to scout things out and not seeing a whole lot so far. You know, less than 90 seconds before this first arc, and the blue team is just not seeing a whole lot. They're like, where is the enemy? This is very confusing. You know, they see this one Huo here and everything, but wondering where everybody else is, but not feeling too bad about it, because with 1 minute to go before arc, you love it when you can't even see your opponent. Points per minute, 300 points per minute in the favor of 3174. They have a bunch of marches here. This is iffy by the red team. This is very iffy by the red team. They maybe needed all these marches to hold the building, but some of these marches could have gone mid. Here's Aang V3. Aang V3 is Aang has a bunch of accounts here. Let's very quickly look at how many accounts Aang has in this arc match. Aang V3, Aang V4, Aang V5. So three accounts from the person Aang in this match, and Aang is a big player in this kingdom without question. One of the big whales in this game, a newer whale to Rise of Kingdoms, but Aang is a name you will hear more and more. Sneaky Tactics being cast by 3174 in the mid, and then they're going to do no mark. This is the no mark from both teams here, actually. Very interesting. Or, I'm sorry, no mark was cast earlier by 3174. So Sneaky Tactics here by the red team. They're just trying to delay this arc. And they're probably going to be successful in delaying it, but this is not a great use of Sneaky Tactics here, I would say, because what has happened is that the red team had almost all their marches break out of Sneaky Tactics immediately to try to harass this arc carrier. It's almost like they decided to fight for it. It's almost as if red team saw the numbers. Yeah, this is what happened. They were thinking about maybe using Sneaky Tactics to delay this arc, but then they saw the numbers of blue team and were like, you know what, we can actually win this arc. And this is very touch and go for blue team here. They need to get a very good pull here, and no one is picking it up. They needed to pick this arc up about 5 to 7 seconds faster, because at this point, red is flooding the zone. So many red marches are coming. I mean, and look at this. Look at the value that Snorlax is about to get with this Sneaky Tactics. This is why you put Sneaky Tactics on the bar, so you can hide and then ambush the arc carrier at the perfect time. This is a perfect ambush by Snorlax here. They are going to take this arc carrier down, I think. There it is. The arc goes down, and now look at the situation. Well, I mean, red got here with decent numbers, but they had to walk through a gauntlet, and so it's kind of a close mid fight at this point. The arc is on blue's side, and it does look like blue has numbers. I thought red had a ton of people here, but look at the sad faces. They're just getting melted. They had to walk through the enemy, and so while red did have a bunch of numbers and they really went for that arc, they just got crushed. They just got absolutely beat up on. So yeah, at the end of the day, blue is going to pull off this first arc here, and they needed it badly because they're down 2,700 points. So no mark was used very early in the match by 3174. They did get value for that. They now don't have a lot of points for the mid fight, but 3379 cast no mark. So both teams have roughly similar points at this stage. Maybe blue team has slightly more points. With the arc, they're gonna take a slight lead in the match, a very slight lead in the match. The map is pretty even, but we do see that blue team is flipping some of these outposts, which is nice value for sure. But the rest of the map is even, the arc is safe, and which team is going to have an edge on the sides at this point? We see again that the blue team is doing a great job of pressuring the Sky Altar. They are going to try and flip this thing. They do have no mark active right now, and so this building is going to be captured in 30 seconds at this point. So it was a nice start for red, but this second phase of the match has been in blue's favor, and we have got a very, very close game at this point. You can see red going into this fight a little bit uncoordinated, one player throwing themselves into this ball at a time rather than all pushing in together. At this point, we're trying to look for some patterns here. We're trying to look for really coordinated attacks. And it's not super crisp from red team. It's not bad. They've played well, but we're not seeing crazy sharp attacks. Here as well, some marches back here, some marches up here. Doesn't even look like there's a rally on this building. Maybe there is. No, there's no rally on this building. Don't think. Nope. Here we've got Catherine with a rally, but unassisted. Unassisted rally here by red team. So they are on the offense. Red is on the offense, but it's not successful. Their attacks are not successful at this point. Here comes the rally on this building. A full minute after the field had engaged. Now they are pushing back blue. They are pushing back blue, and now they can swarm this Gorgo. So it does look like they can get the building back here. Kill points is dead even in this match. 3174 will get back their own Sky Altar here. The Gorgo Hera holding up. We are seeing everyone go with Gorgo Hera rather than Gorgo Tokugawa. That does make sense because swarming is such a big part of Arc. And this Desert Altar was also briefly flipped. It was briefly flipped by the blue team, but red team is now taking it back again. We are seeing the blue team be a little bit more successful in the structure game at this point. Oh, and again, buildings are flipping quite frequently in this match. A very close match where teams are sending the same number of marches to the same locations, and so these buildings are flipping back and forth quite frequently. Oftentimes without a rally. It's oftentimes just swarm on swarm. Again, not a super coordinated attack here. The rally going down here. A bunch of players showing up after the rally is dead. So it looks like blue team will be able to hold once again in this spot. And both teams have all their buildings at the moment. 3379 has a slight lead in points per minute. They're sitting on a 2,000 point lead. Both teams are starting to think about the second arc at this point. 6 minutes until the next arc. I don't think either team has a full bar of points. And if I had to guess, I would guess that the blue team has more points. I think that's why they returned that arc quickly, is because they felt like they have more points for the second arc. And we'll see if that has an impact. Now here is the pincer formation. Here's where it is a no-brainer decision to switch to pincer, I think, is for these rallies, for these Ark of Osiris infantry rallies with Scipio and William Wallace. Pincer does so much damage, and this Scipio Emilianus rally is salivating right now. It is absolutely salivating. There is not much field to swarm it, and so it can just unleash massive pincer damage on this garrison. Now, if you're Silly Queen here, you have to swarm this rally. You have to walk through and swarm the rally. That is what they are doing that. Silly Queen is swarming down this rally. It is a prickly rally with that William Wallace behind, and with all of the damage mitigation and health on the Scipio Emilianus. But you do have to swarm this rally down because it just does so much damage. Good job by Silly Queen here to swarm down the rally and protect the Eleanor inside this garrison. You do see the blue team coming now with heavy open field, so maybe they can swarm this thing down after the rally. Obviously, you wish these marches had been here a minute before, but it's hard to be super well coordinated. And it looks like what's happening in this match is everything is so razor thin that a lot of times the rallies are getting to these buildings before the field does. This Scipio Wallace is still holding up. It survived the swarm from Silly Queen, actually. Good reinforcements into this rally. And now this Eleanor is down and out. 3379 flips this building. They flipped this Sky Altar many, many times. 3.5 minutes before the next arc. And listen, if you're red, do you try to take this building back? And if you're blue, do you try to defend this building for as long as you can? Or do you just die off and go middle? Tough decisions here. It looks like red is definitely recommitting to this lane, and blue team is just picking them up in the field. Ali Albi in the chat noted that there's no energetic from blue here. Yeah, you know, this is one of those decisions where sometimes it seems like not using energetic can give you a few more points mid. This mid fight here is cutting it very close, because look, like, energetic was cast at 35.29. Energetic was cast 1 minute ago by 3174 for 2 points. And you have to ask yourself, are they going to get those 2 points back in the 4 minutes before this arc fight? It's hard to say. It's honestly hard to say. Now, at this point, there's 2.5 minutes before arc. Red has taken the building. They've taken the temple. Red has a lot of marches on the sides, as does blue. At the moment, we're seeing more mobilization to mid by blue, I would say. Sneaky tactics cast by blue, and then an immediate desert storm by red. Full counter with this desert storm, plus some nice chip damage on these marches that are being instantaneously revealed. A very nice play, a nice pickup by the red team to neutralize most of that sneaky tactics. It looks like a couple marches did survive, and they are going to take out this sentry here that saw the sneaky tactics. But at this point, sneaky tactics is gone, and now the skill points are probably, well, actually, I'm going to say this. I think red is very low on skill points. I don't think they have 6 points to cast to the death here. All they have right now is the temple and a few skill points and the numbers. It does look like red has the numbers advantage here. 90 seconds until the arc spawns. Red needs this arc to take the lead in the match. Both teams have all their buildings. And blue is just inching forward. They don't love it. If I'm blue, I don't love this. There might be more marches in here than we realize. This might be closer than it looks, but to me, this looks like a very, very strong posture by red. Blue's going to go in with the to the death. Look at, see, there's the point differential. There's the point differential right there. To the death on one team, dust up on the other. A big skill point advantage here for blue team with that to the death. They have fully engaged at this point. Skills popping off from both teams. Arc spawning in 30 seconds. This fight might be settled before this arc spawns. Sad faces starting to come out. Sad faces coming from the red side so far. There's a couple from blue. More sad faces from red, but pretty close. More sad faces from red now. Starting to look like blue is taking this one. Blue's looking real good here. Arc is spawning in 5 seconds, and blue is taking control of this middle just as they needed to. And they are grabbing the arc over here on the side. Dip has it. Actually, looks like Dip is over here getting a clean grab on the right side as this fight really kind of slows down, to be honest. It looks like blue is in real good shape here. Real good shape for blue. And they're going to get a clean arc pull here. Look at this. Look, oh, it's Balancer here grabbing this thing. And he is going to get taken down eventually, but he's going to get a nice run. This is a really nice run. For a heavily contested arc fight where the enemy stood at the temple for all but the last minute, that's a great run right off the bat for the blue team. They won the first arc, and they used their skill point advantage for this second arc. Someone in the chat saying, why did blue not cast Energetic? That is why they did not cast Energetic. They had 9 points for mid, and they had everything they needed. They had everything they needed. They used sneaky tactics. It didn't work. They followed it up with to the death, and that worked great. And so that's why they didn't use Energetic. Now, I'm not going to say that I understand the math completely, but I think that was the logic that they used. May have been right, may have been wrong. Worked out in this case. Someone in the chat asking, what is to the death? To the death is a skill that lasts for 1 minute, and it gives a massive damage boost to 30 marches mid. It also means that you can't get any healing, but the damage boost is absolutely massive on that to the death. It's the biggest damage boost in the entire game. So a clean arc grab there from blue. We do see an ambush here. An ambush is percolating from red. They're thinking about it. The sentry is picking up this entire ambush. Very nice sentry here. I would normally put the sentry here, but they put it back here. And actually, I think that was an old sentry. Yeah, here's the new sentry. This one was just dropped. They just dropped this sentry to see the ambush as it was coming. And they are picking this ambush up. They've seen it the whole time. They're pretty well prepared. Here's a couple of players thinking about maybe doing the ambush. All these players are picking it up. Yeah, this ambush isn't really going to work, and they're already diverting. Red team is already diverting, trying to take this building. But at this point, it's 2 arcs to 0 for 3379. They are looking pretty good for this match. They have a 2,800 point lead now. Once you add on that next arc, their lead is going to be over 6,000 points. And the question is whether they hold this thing or whether they just return it quickly. I would probably hold it. I would probably hold this for a long time because you have a nice lead. And the red team, 3174, they need to get to work on the sides here. They looked good on the sides early. They've been a little shaky on the sides since then. They need to start putting in some real work on the sides. They might be able to time warp and run no march again. There's the energetic from blue team, so we know they are aware of using that skill, so they just cast it. As they try to hold at this desert altar, and Eleanor holding strong against the Attila Subutai rally. Pretty good reinforcements into this rally. More marches coming. Banaki Dead's own marches are coming to help his rally. It's holding on. The rally is still up. There's a bit of swarm on the building, but there's plenty of defense as well. Eleanor buffing her teammates as they fight around this building. Very close fight here. Very close fight. Red team has to get these wins. They have to get these close wins to stay in this match. There's Stafer, the king of 3379, getting involved directly with this one. Lots of BQs out there on the field. BQ Lucci. We saw a BQ Lucci and a BQ Phillip right here in the frame right now. People are using different combos with BQ, but BQ is a fantastic commander for Arc. A berserker style commander who does more damage as their health gets lower, and damage is the name of the game in Arc of Osiris, and that is why you see so many BQs out on this field. And it is that BQ swarm that does ultimately take this building for the red team, flipping this building. Now, the one point to make here, the rally did die, and so they probably don't have a garrison. Their garrison was likely in that Attila Subutai rally. The rally died, so there's no other garrisons here. They're stuck with the Scipio. They're stuck with the Scipio in this desert altar. So it's probably going to get flipped back to blue. Let's take a look down here. Here is the Scipio Aemilianus rally hitting this Eleanor. Scipio Pakal here. Scipio Pakal anticipating lots of swarm. And yeah, they're getting a lot of swarm. Oh, they're definitely getting swarmed because they're surrounded completely by red. Blue just getting completely cleaned up here. And if we look at the ratio, again, the ratio is dead even in this match. If anything, it feels to me like the 3174 account strength is a little bit better. Nothing crazy, but it does feel like the account strength is a little bit better on the 3174 side. But the blue team is winning the mid fights with better skill uses on the second one, and on the first one they just had better numbers. So both teams once again having all their buildings. Neither team is having a ton of success taking enemy structures. We're seeing a lot of successful defenses at this point. We're going from one building to another, and we're seeing rallies getting swarmed down, and we're seeing Eleanors survive in the buildings. So this is where Eleanor is pretty good, in these heavily contested fights where you can kill the swarmers and you can reinforce the building a decent amount. The Eleanor is pretty good, right? Now, I think Gorgo would do roughly just as well, but people like the speed of that Eleanor, and they like the speed of those cavalry reinforcements. And that's really what we're seeing. Finally, we see a flip here. We see this building's been going back and forth a lot in the last few minutes, so we'll just have to see if this thing ever gets stabilized. This is what 3174 needs to do, right? They do have a points per minute lead, and they've had a points per minute lead for a few minutes here because they keep flipping this desert altar. All the other buildings have not been flipped. It's been really tough for either team to flip some of these other buildings, but red team is having success at this desert altar. And let's see when this rally is going to come out over here for the blue team. Looks like Stafer is going to be rallying this building, but you know, it's still preparing 30 seconds before this rally even launches. A little bit slow to get this rally out, if I can be perfectly honest about it. But you know, nothing too crazy in other lanes, honestly. I mean, look over here, the defense is picking up the offense in front of their own building. They're picking them up midfield here very confidently. a promising attack here by blue, promising attack down here at this desert altar by blue. So both desert altars under threat here. One being flipped constantly, and this one here, there's potential, but there's no rally. There's no rally. That's the issue. That is the issue here. So they're probably not going to flip this building. In fact, I can practically guarantee that they won't flip this building because there's simply no rally. There's just no rally. They're going to fight in the field. They're not even going to swarm the building. So, and here's what a good attack looks like, right? Is like you have the field, you have really good field, and it's attacking at the same time as the rally is hitting. So this is sort of like the pattern that I've been looking for this whole match. We're only seeing it on a team's own building, right? It's much easier to have this pattern on your own building because everything is much closer. But that's the pattern we've been looking for, is the rally hitting with a really substantial open field presence at the same time. And we just are not seeing a lot of it in this match. Here, it's okay here. It's an okay attack here from blue. This is okay, but there's just about as much red here. And so, well, this is going to be a close one because we saw this building get flipped last time. This was a very close fight last time. We saw this building get flipped. This rally is getting swarmed down faster this time. But these blue marches in the field are also doing work. They're doing work on either the building or they're doing work on the swarmers. Look at some of these swarmers going down really hard. These swarmers are going down really hard. And so in about 30 seconds, I think we're going to see blue holding the field. Their rally might not be up, but they might hold the field and be able to swarm what's left of this Eleanor garrison. There goes the rally. The rally's down. Blue is now swarming. Red still has good numbers. More blue flooding in. So far, a good hold by red. A good hold by red. They're still holding this arc. As predicted, they're going to hold this arc for the maximum amount of time. Blue team has a lead. They're going to have about a 5,000 point lead. It was a 6K point lead. Now it's going to be about 5,500. Or actually, yeah, it's going to be about 5,500. So they just want one more arc. If there's only one more arc in the match, then the most that red team can gain is 4K points. All else being equal, blue would still win even if they lose the next arc. That's why they're max holding this thing. They're just going to hold this thing the whole time. It's a good decision by blue. It's a very sensible decision. They just hope that either they can win the third arc or they just do enough the rest of the way to keep the score even. And I think what you're probably going to see from blue is I think you're going to see a time warp, a no mark, and you're going to see them not go mid. I think you're going to see blue team not go mid here. And they're just going to try to get some points on the side because that should be enough to win the match. Now, what red team's going to need to do is anticipate that and not send too many people mid. There's the arc return, a little bit earlier than we thought, but there is the arc return. The next arc will spawn with about 12 minutes left in the match. Another attack here that's just not going to work, I don't think. Let's look at the numbers in the field. Red does have a lot of numbers in the field, but let's watch this here. Red has the numbers advantage here, but let's see if blue can accomplish everything they want, even with fewer numbers. I think they can. I think blue has enough here to just play defense, kill these swarmers off. They've already swarmed down the rally. And this is what you want to do as a defense. You want to use slightly fewer marches than the offense and hold anyway. That allows you to use your other marches elsewhere on the map, which they are doing, by the way. They just flipped this Shrine of War again. Not sure where Hunter came from here, but he did flip this thing. And I don't know if there was a rally on it or what, or if it's just a swarm. Looks like it was just a swarm here on this building. Looks like Hunter may have looped through from the mid to flip this building. That's a nice flip for blue. It's a points game. It's a points game here. Because again, red can potentially win this third arc and still lose the match. Right now, it is a clean 5,000 point lead for the blue team. And, you know, again, blue can afford to lose the next mid if they continue to do work on the sides. Right now, they have a slight points per minute lead. All they have to do is break even on the sides, and they will probably win this match. Gathering is a factor. We have to consider the gathering as a factor. And let me very quickly talk about the provisioning of these two teams. Last week, 3174 did 3,000 points of provisioning, and 3379 did 5k points of provisioning, although that is partly because they held 3 obelisks, so they had more territory to gather on. If we look at the map right now, we see 2 gathering marches for blue. We see way more gathering marches for red. This is relevant. This is certainly relevant here that red team has more gathering marches. Time warp just being cast by blue, and there's that no mark as predicted. No mark from blue. This is before the arc. They're going to do this before the arc. But this no mark is going to end just as the arc spawns. And so at this point, red needs to make a read. They need to make a read at what blue is going to do. In my opinion, blue is not going middle. I think blue is going to have a token force middle, a small force middle, and everything else is going to be on the side. And so if you're red, you have to match that. You have to mainly be on the sides and just send a little bit mid in order to win that thing. You've got to take some risks here if you're red, but we'll see if they do it. 5 minutes to go before the next mid fight. It looks like there's going to be another failed attack here in this lane. And at the same time, blue is flipping all these other buildings. Blue's flipping the sky altar, and blue has flipped this desert altar. So blue is just really doing what they need to do at this point. And they have no mark on. This is why they cast no mark when they did. It's because they took these buildings, and we're about to see the points per minute balloon up for 3379. Someone asking in the chat where they can see the 75 DC versus E68 match. To watch that match, you'll need to be inside the Rise of Kingdoms client, and where you can spectate all the matches. If you want to watch on YouTube, then your options are to continue to watch this very close match between 3379 and 3174, or Dirty Dan is casting Lost versus Beer on the other channel. Let me go ahead and give you guys a score update on all the other matches. It'll take me a few moments to get it, but I will give you a score update on everything happening around the Osiris League. There are a bunch of matches right now, and this Desert Altar is still being held by 3379. Let's look at the points. 962 points per minute for blue. This is what they had to do. They've got a big lead, and they're extending the lead before this next arc. You know, if I were red, I would have mirrored that no mark. I probably would have mirrored the no mark. They might be waiting to take some of these buildings, but they're not getting the buildings. They're just not getting the buildings. I mean, again, like, this looks slightly promising if you just don't think hard about it. But once you think hard about it, Snorlax has low health marches and reinforcements are coming in. Look at this. Kulak is so confident that he's going to move the double C forward. This is a pure reinforcing march, right? This is a pure reinforcing march, double C. But he's going to throw the fresh march in 3 minutes before arc. Red... Yeah, red's heading middle now. Red's heading middle. The problem is the no mark is just putting in so much work for blue. The no mark is just doing so much work for blue right now. And let me go ahead and give you guys a score update on everything else that's happening in this Osiris League. Beer is blowing out Lost. Beer has a huge lead against Lost in the Realm of Forests. Or I think that's in Bastet, actually. Oh, I'm not getting scores here, unfortunately. Oh, there we go. Here we go. SV92 is losing to DQ39. JST with a comfortable lead. And 1188, actually, I think, yeah, 1188 is leading 3310. So nothing too close out there. Let me look in Bastet real quick. Yeah, that's where the lost match was. And there is one very close match in Sobek. If you're dying to see a super close match, then you can tune into Sobek. But I think this is probably the closest match going on right now. This match is still up for grabs. Red has taken the temple. They have taken the temple. Arc is spawning in 90 seconds. Blue has the Sky Altar still, but they did lose their Desert Altar. Still no mark from 3174. They might have Master Strategy on the bar. They didn't have it last week, but if you're Red Team, what you really want to have right now is Master Strategy. You really need to return this arc incredibly fast and maybe get a 4th arc, but I don't think you have time. I actually don't think you have time regardless. So Red Team is in a pretty tough spot here. And this, look at this Gorgo. This Gorgo has just been chilling here for several minutes, racking up points for her team. They have not been able to get this Sky Altar back. And in both of the matches we watched today, this was the lane where the blue team really made a difference. They had very strong attacks on this Sky Altar from the blue side. We saw it earlier with OWR, and we saw it again with 3379 here. This lane was their best attacks, and they have flipped this Sky Altar so many times. There's To The Death. Looks like the mid fight is kicking off right now. To The Death for the red team, and they're using Desert Storm to reveal these sneaky tactics. So a big skill point dump for red. And I don't know. I don't know that you use all those points mid. I think you needed to use no mark, because winning this mid fight is not going to be enough. And some pretty effective movement here by blue. At the end of the day, they're seen. They are visible marches, but some pretty effective movement by blue, forcing red to actually grab the arc from the wrong side. And it's actually going to be Dip who grabs this arc. It dies immediately, but they're delaying. At the end of the day, blue is delaying this arc. They're forcing red to use a bunch of marches to secure this arc. And at the same time, blue is just playing defense on the side, getting back their Desert Altar. I mean, you needed to have no mark. If you're red team, you needed to have no mark active to get some extra points on that Desert Altar. As is, they dumped all their points mid. They're going to clean this mid fight up pretty heavy. And, you know, in all honesty, they didn't even get much value from that To The Death, because the blue team just juked it. They juked the To The Death. They avoided combat for that full minute. So the To The Death was really not needed there. And I just think you needed to use Time Warp and No Mark instead to have a chance in this match. A slight points per minute lead for 3174 at this point. If we assume they capture this arc, then they are going to be down about 3,000 points. And listen. They have way more gatherers. Red team has way more gatherers than blue does. Now, is it going to be enough to make up 3,000 points? Probably not, but we've seen gatherers out here for quite a while from the red team. You know, every time we zoom out, we see about 6 or so marches gathering. And at this point, there's no gatherers. There's no gatherers for blue. So this is about a 3,000 point game, and red is gathering a lot more. 10 minutes to go, and it's not decided. Like, it's honestly, this match is not over. This match is not over. Blue is looking very good here, but this match is not over. Frederick's saying that the EE and 3... Yeah, one of the Sobek matches is very close. I think this is probably the second closest match popping off right now. You got to do some invisible math to make this match close, but when you factor in the arc plus the gatherers, this match is quite close. And thank you, Christopher, for the nice words I do really enjoy casting Osiris League. It is one of my favorite things to do in a game that I have now been playing for almost 7 years. So, yes, I'm glad you're enjoying the content. Do throw a like on this stream. And if you do enjoy my content, you can click the link in the description and subscribe to my channel. But for now, we are going to lock in on what's happening on this map. A lot of buildings are flipping. A lot of buildings are flipping at the moment. Blue flipping both shrines. Or they're flipping one shrine. Did they ever lose this Sky Altar? I think they lost it and just took it back. Yeah, another rally here. They instantly launched this rally. Look at this. They instantly launched the rally. It wasn't full. It wasn't full, but Voldemort got this rally and just ripped through this Sky Altar yet again. Blue is just doing enough on the sides. At this point, the structure game is in Blue's favor after being trailing for most of the game. And this Sky Altar, yeah, this Sky Altar is crazy. The Ark was just returned, so now it's about a 2,500 point lead for Blue Team. They have a points per minute lead. They're up 2,500. The gathering is certain. Wow, look at all the gathering for Red. Red is going heavy on the gathering. They're trying to gather and hold their buildings at the same time. Will they be able to do it? I mean, listen, if you can't hold your buildings, then it doesn't matter if you gather. You're not going to gather enough to make up for all these points that are going Blue's way. They're getting... This is a 160 point swing per minute. And then this altar is like a 300 point swing per minute. So 460 points per minute from just the two buildings that Blue owns that they shouldn't own. A 460 point swing per minute. Gatherers cannot make that up. The only reason to go heavy gathering is if you can hold your buildings as well. And that is simply not happening here. Red is not able to do both. They're not able to farm and defend. But, you know, it's an interesting calculation they attempted to make here. And it's an interesting way to go for the high-risk play. The only real mistake I can point to from the red team is, number one, I don't think they should have used To the Death mid. I think they needed to try to win mid without To the Death and use no mark on the side. And then I do think that earlier in the match when they were on offense, some of their attacks were just not that effective, not that well coordinated. Hirek in the chat saying needed no mark. I agree. I think they needed the no mark the second time. At this point, it's about a 2,800 point lead. The points per minute is pretty close. It's pretty close. But you can see that red is not really on the attack anywhere. This is the lane that they tried to attack. This Desert Altar is where red tried to attack, but they just have not had much success. You're seeing it again here, just not having a lot of success at all. The outside lane has just been playing defense the whole time. This Shrine of Life has not been touched the entire match. Blue has a very, very promising attack on this Desert Altar. This Desert Altar is going to be flipped here. Look at all these marches not even moving. It's almost like they lagged out. I hope it's not me. I hope it's not me who lagged out. We do see other marches in action, but look at all these marches not attacking at all. And they need to get into action because look at all these blue marches flooding the zone. Arjak, that is a very good point. They do not have Time Warp. Yes, you're right. You're right. Yeah. They put Desert Storm plus Sneaky Tactics on the bar, and that meant they didn't have Time Warp. So it's an interesting play there. They didn't really get a lot of value for that Sneaky Tactics, to be honest. I don't feel like the red team got much value for their Sneaky Tactics. And so it would have been nice to have Time Warp there instead. But you're absolutely right. The reason they didn't do a second no mark is because they couldn't do a second no mark. But yeah, blue team flipping this Desert Altar here. Really good attack. They've still got the numbers at this building, so they're probably going to hold it for a while. This is what blue team needed here coming down the stretch. 4 minutes left in the match, and they are getting 350 more points per minute because of this desert altar and the other buildings that are just not fully captured by red. Blue has done some really good work on the sides here, as 3379 inches closer to the semifinals. They put themselves in this position with the upset against 60 GT last week, and then they delivered on the opportunity with some very good play here, some smart play by 3379 in this match in terms of getting value for on the mid fights, doing well with their skill point usage. Pretty good no mark, although the first no mark was actually better for blue, or for red, excuse me. But overall, good play by blue, getting things done in a lot of different vectors. And using sneaky tactic, or using to the death here, by the way. They did use to the death here for a second time. Because, you know, there's 3 minutes left and you got to do something. So they're just confidently deep in the enemy field at this desert altar. They're going to hold this desert altar for quite a long time. They've held it for several minutes already. Now they're getting full points. Look at the points difference. 500 points more per minute for blue. A genuine miscalculation. A genuine miscalculation by red to have this many gatherers. This is what happens when you have this many gatherers. You lose your buildings. You just lose your buildings because you have so many less marches fighting in the field. So a really interesting match here. Two young teams here doing a lot of good stuff. But it wasn't perfect. You know what I mean? This wasn't perfect play by either team. We saw sort of things that could have been done better, but we also saw some things that were well executed. Again, very good skill point usage by the blue team. I think their understanding of the skill points before the second arc, they returned that first arc very quickly because they understood that they had more points. And that's why they returned the first arc quickly, and then it manifested in them having way better skills for that mid fight. And also a questionable skill bar by the red team, not having time warp. I think that's a real mistake to not have time warp. And the reason is because when you have time warp, to the death, and no mark, you have options. You can either focus on the mid or you can focus on structures. You can time warp and use either skill a second time. So I think that time warp, to the death, and no mark, those three skills together are absolutely fantastic. They all cost 6 points, but they're great. A little to the death for the fun here. Listen, let's see what the gathering is looking like. Yeah, fourth, look at this. 5,000 provisions already for 3174. Their gatherers have come in. Almost all their gatherers have come in. We see a few out there, but their gatherers have basically come in. The two full-time gatherers, well, I don't know if there's any full-time gatherers for 379, but I would imagine there's a couple here that have been out for a while. They're starting to come in now. That's not a full-time gatherer for sure. And there's Kenny coming back in. That's not a full-time gatherer. But yeah, the gathering has come in for the red team. It's not going to be enough. A 2,000 point lead for 3379. Emojis starting to pop off here. Blue team feeling themselves and feeling that Adjudicator Castle skin, a really, really cool looking skin. Super cool looking skin for the semifinalists in this Osiris League, and 3379 is going to get it. There is the victory. Centurion, Snail from 3174. They did do a lot of gathering, and there's the Centurion representing the MVP Snail. If we look at the stats, very close in kills. Very, very close in kills. Occupation and Arc won by the blue team. A lot of healing from both teams. This was a pretty... this was a hard-fought fight right here. So both teams did have to do quite a bit of healing. In the end, it was 3-3-7-9, advancing to the semifinals. They will play against 60MX next week in this Realm of Horus. A couple of great matches that it was my pleasure to cast today. Thank you all for hanging out. Throw a like on this video. Check out the description and follow myself and all the other content creators who are casting the Osiris League. We will be back next week for the semifinals. It is just getting more and more intense, more and more interesting as only the top teams remain. And a few top teams are out at this point. So see you next Sunday and enjoy the rest of your weekend.